Interestingly enough, when I think about my background is quite varied actually. I graduated as a dental technician. This is about just over 22 years ago actually. It's weird because you think I graduated as a dental technician, and right now, I'm the director of African Muslims Agency doing humanitarian work here in South Africa, Southern Africa, and also internationally now with Palestinian and Syrian refugees. When I think about it, it blows my mind. But when I think back on it, my dad, the late Muhammad Choonara, who was one of the founders of African Muslim Agency here in South Africa in the 80s, in 87 already, 1987, 32 years ago. When I think back, me as a child growing up, he was always a humanitarian. So I grew up around people helping people. So I graduated, I decided, I'm going to go into the world of business. So first I become a professional as a dental technician, then I go into the world of business. And for 20 years, I go into business, leadership development, motivational speaking, leadership speaking, business development speaking, and I just fell in love with that. And also I grew a lot, I learned a lot. And then of course, the way God plans sometimes I think is fascinating. Because then when he passed away in 2011, and the board then asked me, they said, Imraan, can you bring a different perspective to AMA, African Muslims Agency? They said, bring a different angle. Bring this humanitarian perspective of just crossing borders, breaking barriers. And that was preparing me for working in this humanitarian field, of being able to help people and break those barriers. We knew very little about Somalia, Ethiopia, Kenya, Sudan, Djibouti, Chad. We never knew these places existed. He would travel to these countries, bring back photographs of people dying, of poverty-stricken areas. And he would show it to people here in South Africa. And really, what was he doing? Sometimes I believe honestly that in us helping another fellow African in another country, we were also healing our own wounds. But as the director of African Muslims Agency, the first time I went in the field, I remember the feeling. And when I got into, first of all, I flew from Cape Town, lived in Cape Town. I flew 2 hours to Johannesburg, from Johannesburg 2 hours to Maputo, from Maputo 2 hours to the north in Kilimani. Then we get on a 4x4 and we drive 7 hours into the bush. Then when the 4x4 can't go anymore, then there's motorcycles and then bicycles and then you walk. And you get into villages in the northern part of Mozambique, Zambezia province.
For a number of reasons, we are here obviously to participate in the relief efforts of Cyclone Idai, distributing relief packs to the victims of Cyclone Idai. Also to witness the water wells in action, to see the benefit it's bringing to the villages. And these water wells have been sponsored by a number of schools across South Africa.
And I could not believe it. This is amazing when you think about it. You get there and you realize there's humanity, like human beings. It's like discovering something for the first time. But you know what I witnessed? I witnessed the most amazing people. But I learned a lot. I honestly believe when you do humanitarian work, when you help another human being, I genuinely believe it heals a part of you. On one hand, you realize, wow, how do people live? On the other hand, how beautiful it was because you literally lived with nature. But then I also learned what they eat, how they sleep at night, the mosquitoes, all of these kind of things, how they walk from very early hours of the morning to go fetch water from kilometers away. Because think about water for a second. Water is a basic need, we all need it for various things in life. For them, it's their daily grind, so to speak, to go and send children from one village to other villages kilometers away to go and fetch water. That is their daily chore. When you're in Africa, what do? You see a child drinking out of water like that. You know in your heart that this cannot be good. There's insects in the water and you watch it. You know it's not good. What do? And that's why I encourage people, when you witness things like that, you realize the value of donating a water well in Africa. So this is why I think the value of going to the field, but every time I visit the field, whether it's in Africa, the African experience, first of all, taught me the concept of, okay, it's healing me as well. I'm serving humanity. Imagine the power of one human being serving another human being. How more amazing could that be? And I genuinely believe that sitting in an office by yourself all the time, trying to plan all the things around the world that you're busy doing humanitarianly, I believe that's important, but I also believe for my heart and my soul, getting into the field. So then I made the transition to Lebanon.
So we came here today to give boxes of food. We gave quite a few boxes of food because, of course, the donors of AMA over Ramadan is sponsored over 10,000 of these boxes of food, which feed 50,000 people.
Here's the thing, whenever I'm going into a different country, I want to know who I'm working with. So I never just make a connection over the phone, over Skype or whatever. I literally get in a plane and go sit and meet the people. That's my philosophy, because I get a sense when I'm working with people, when I'm speaking to people face to face, I get a feeling. I can feel, okay, do I feel like we're connecting? We have the same value system. We have the same understanding of our end result. We want to help humanity. There's no agendas here. So in Lebanon was exactly the same thing. I needed a partner on the ground I could trust, always. And so going into Lebanon, of course, it can be crazy. You can end up with the wrong people. And we made sure. So I met with an organization called URDA, Union for Relief and Development Associations. Now when I think about these guys, because when I met them for the first time, interacted with them, got to know them, got a sense of their value system as a team, as an organization, I was excited.
Especially during the last storm, there was severe damage to many of the tents. Some were broken, some of the insulation was torn down, and because of this, the number of ill children has increased.
So I remember my first trip. I remember going into refugee camps. It was the first time in my life that I was in a refugee camp, for example. And going into these camps, firstly, when I went into Aramoun, for example, I went into Arsa, I went into Akkar. When I went there for the first time, I went there and I remember clearly that I was sitting in a tent, in a refugee tent with a mom and her children. And I sat there interviewing her, so to speak. And I tell you, I felt like such an idiot after a few minutes, because I was asking her about her experience, and I realized it hit me. Imraan, there is no way she will open up to me as much as I'd want her to, or even as much as she'd like to, but she just won't. There's this barrier. And I thought there's no way I could even remotely empathize with her the way she needs to be empathized with. It's just not gonna happen. And I just thought, you know what? When I left that tent, I thought to myself, I have to send women.
Nirosha, how are you guys feeling? I'd like your guys' perspective as a professional.
Especially of a person like Amal, that she's been through so much and she's actually so happy just sitting on the floor, having sharing coffee with us and sharing her story with us. But the smile that she has on her face is actually so genuine.
Those simple little thing that you forget about at home, Rosy. But it just broke the ice. It was just easier then, and then they realized that we're there for them.
Yeah, I'm good. And how are you feeling about today?
Do you remember when you told us about like why you want to send women and how they would like open up to you and things? And then today, like that lady, like she told us a story, and then she had to tell us that she never told anyone a story before. And like I think like we just didn't realize like it's actually like a thing that we're coming here and like we're giving people that they can actually open up to us. And it was so cool, and the children were just like so happy, and they just had a smile with us. And
a delegation of women who went to the refugee camps there in Lebanon, Syrian, Palestinian refugee camps. Women have to come to talk to these mothers. Women have to come to hug these mothers. Women who have children have to come to talk to these mothers, see what they're going through, who've lost their husbands in war, in conflict, who've lost some of their sons.
We've had a walk around some of the camps and listened to stories from mums, children, and dads. We often forget about the dads, but they touched my heart, as did the mums and the children. I'm absolutely heartbroken today.
These women came back, and within 10 days to 2 weeks, they raised the money for 100 orphans. By the end of December, it was 268. Right now, as I sit here, just a year later, it's almost 500 orphans. When I was there, I met a little boy, Amin. Now, Amin, for example, lost both his parents in Syria while he was at school. That story touched the heart of so many people in South Africa in so many different ways.
And the idea that having you as his dad, it makes him feel better. He's not feeling as an orphan.
There are so many kids here in the store today that were shopping for Eid clothing with their mums. Now, Amin doesn't have a mum or dad, so I was helping him shop. And it was so much fun. It was incredible fun. We had so many laughs just helping him shop today. So for me, being in a camp, being in a village in Africa, makes a massive difference when you hear a name. In Africa, in Malawi, little girl in a hut, sitting on the floor. Her name is Ethel. When Ethel's sitting on the floor, we say, write a letter to the world, what would you say?
In a letter, we're heading to say, you people of the world, how is your life in that side? But also I will tell them how is the life in Malawi within our family. Should ask how is their life, and she'll be able also to explain her life, family here.
So I really want to say to the donors of Africa Muslim Agency, and anybody who ever hears this, is that you never know what little money you might have, massive difference it can make. Because we need the money to do what? To build Dignity Tents, to build Basamat centers, psychosocial, to build vocational centers, to feed people, to build water wells, thousands of water wells in Africa, to help girls like Ethel, to reach out to the world, to build masajid, to build schools, to build classrooms, to build clinics, to do these things, to help orphans all over. We need money. Trust me on this. Remember, you are one of thousands. So even if you give a small amount, the magnitude of the impact is incredible. I have this vision that beyond you and I, beyond us, when our time is over, it will still be continuing as skyscrapers, as Africa Muslim Agency, around the world and promoting touching humanity.